It's March. I can't believe it. Welcome to this month's message about the energies of March, what you can expect, and how to navigate this month with flow and harmony and staying connected to your center, yourself, being balanced in your nervous system. And yeah, let's just see what comes through. These are live videos that I channel live. I from my soul energy. I don't plan these. I don't tap into things ahead of time. I don't watch other people's videos. This is just straight from my soul, a message from me to you about the upcoming month. So, the first thing I'm sensing with March is that there's this trepidation and hesitation in the energy fields. I sense that for a lot of people, January and February did not necessarily go exactly how they wanted it to go. Maybe there were hardships and challenges that you weren't expecting. I know that was certainly the case for me. I'm actually in the process of still of recovering from a pretty bad experience. Well, bad meaning it was intense, so it's not bad or good, take that out, but intense experience with pneumonia. So that was definitely not expected. And maybe you had something similar. There's been a lot of people that have been ill and sick, but also just having unexpected things pop up in reality that maybe aren't so pleasant to deal with. And for a lot of people, that has gotten them into either a very consciously fear based state about the future and has really stirred up coping patterns that are based in fear and control. So you might have seen in February an uptick in certain patterns that maybe you thought you resolved, like people pleasing or perfectionism, which I consider to be coping mechanisms. And there's so many more. Anxiety is a coping mechanism. And so for people that are not, and I say this with so much love, but not very emotionally intelligent, which doesn't mean that you don't have intelligence. So don't take this personally, but emotional intelligence is a skill that most of us have to cultivate and learn. And my definition of um, that skill is of emotional intelligence is to be okay with whatever emotion is flowing through you and to not stay stuck or stagnant in certain emotions. And most people that when they have emotions come up that are very difficult to deal with, and one of those emotions can be like fear. If you don't know how to sit with fear, then that can very quickly take over your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions, and your decisions in the world. And suddenly you have everything coming from this fear based place, which, if you've been following me for a while, you know that when whatever is at the seed point, whatever energy is at the seed point of a decision and action in your life is going to grow the more you take action from that place. So I say these things to empower you, not to get you further into a fear-based mechanism like, oh my gosh, I've been making decisions and actions from a place of insecurity and anxiety and fear. That's okay. All you have to do is start to flip that script into something that is truthful for you and not in fear. So An example of that would be um, uh, just with health, right? So health has been a very big theme. I think it's going to continue to be a big theme at least through March. It feels like a lot of the health things that people are going through are completion of the energies of 2024. And for whatever reason, those things happen to be very, like the completion of those energies and cycles happen to be very much impacting the physical body. And so a lot of people think that we entered into new energy as soon as 2025 started, but actually the new year energetically is somewhere around the spring equinox. April is really kind of like the start of the new year energetically. So most people are wrapping up patterns or being given the opportunity to wrap up patterns and let go of old emotions from the past related to everything that you were going through in 2024. And so this may resonate with you where you're like, okay, even though I've been going through a health issue or some other thing, this is eerily familiar to things I was going through in 2024 that maybe were completely different, but they have the same flavor, the same kind of emotions are evoked in me. And okay, and so getting back to the example of health and like how to flip the script between fear-based and something that is more supportive, something probably that you would want to nurture and expand in your life. Because basically, when we make a decision, whatever energies are present in that decision, and then we go take action in the world to expand that energy and that decision outwards, those energies expand in your life, and so it can be very easily switched. So most people are making decisions about their health from a fear-based state, even if it is like weight loss. Most people are making decisions to lose weight or be healthy because they're afraid of dying. Big one. They are afraid of gaining weight. They are afraid of what other people will think of them if they aren't like optimally physically beautiful and perfect. Um, or even some like the fear of death is actually a big one when it comes to health, and most people are making decisions with that energy in their decision making framework. Is very much like a survival based framework. And here's the thing is like we get to honor our survival self that, yeah, is like I'm going to make this decision so that I don't die, right? So that's very, very logical. But we get to honor that, and we also get to choose the energy that is the dominant seed point for what expands and shows up in our life later on down the river. Um, and so, like, even like taking supplements or doing detoxes can come from fear-based mindset of like I'm doing this because I'm afraid what will happen if I don't, or I'm going to get sick or die if I don't do these things. um yeah, those are like the big ones I think with the health. And so what you want to really flip the script is like what energy would you like to see expand in your life? I doubt anybody wants to see the fear of death expand in their life. If you do, hey, keep doing it. Like, amazing. But my sense is that most people don't. They're making that decision because they don't want it. And by making decisions out of what you don't want and what you fear, you actually expand that energy outwards from the seed points. Like if you had a little seed and you put soil on top of it and you gave it sunshine and watered it, and those are your like your actions in the world that are coming from the seed point, then it grows into a plant, and the plant bears the fruit and the leaves of like what was contained in the seed. So it's really easy to flip the script and just be like, I'm doing this to support my health, my longevity. I would love to be able to be active and have a rich, full life. So it's very easy to flip the script. Um, and The reality is that we if that some people are able to do this, but they don't fully believe it as truth. And you will know based on how you feel. And if you're a person that's very disconnected from how you feel about things, where it's like when I think about I'm making this decision to support my health, if you're like, I don't feel anything related to that, that's probably a sign that there's an inner conflict around that. So the subconscious does play an element here. And a lot of people don't like to hear this, but it is the truth that we can do a lot with our conscious mind. And so, like, this reframe of like, I'm supporting my health rather than I'm doing this because I'm avoiding illness and death. Um, Very easy to switch in the mind, sometimes more difficult to have your entire subconscious mind be aligned to that and be on board with that, which is something that can't be faked. It's a feeling that's like, yeah, oh, okay, that feels so much better. And that really excites me. Like, and I feel that in my body, like I'm supporting my health with that. It's a feeling that you embody. And so this is where a lot of people get caught up in mindset work is they're like, well, I switched my mindset and I was still getting experiences that were maybe more reflective of how I used to make decisions. And that's two things happening. One is just the kind of like the leftovers of maybe how you were making decisions for a really long time. So there's that part. A lot of people aren't patient enough to let the old energy cycle out, if you will. Um, our physical experience is kind of like the last thing to show up energetically. Our thoughts are very quick, and the way we've made decisions for a long time in our life have created probably structures and foundations in your physical life that are all reflective of those old ways of viewing the world. So that's one thing is you have to kind of give enough time for the energy to cycle out. And so this is what most people are going through in this first part of the year is like they're being given the opportunity for these old energies to cycle out, but they are viewing these things as new problems, um, and getting more entrenched into the fear-based mindset of like, well, it would have been really great to think about this in terms of like, oh, I'm just supporting my body. But when I am really sick, so taking my own example, I was actually in the hospital and had a few pretty scary things going on when I had this pneumonia. Um, I really could have gotten into the place where it's like, this is a new problem. And um, then we start to make up stories of like, oh, especially if you're into like manifestation, which I imagine if you're on this video, you're into that kind of thing of like, why, what did I do to manifest this? I must have done something wrong, which is kind of the edge of those fear-based thoughts. Why is this happening to me? So you're getting in that victim state when you're asking questions like that. And that's a very slippery slope into fear, like taking over your entire personality and your entire energy, and then creating more situations, like making more decisions out of that place of like, well, I actually have this situation that's presenting itself to me that I very much could die in this situation. I mean, I wasn't close to death, so I'm not going to say that I was, but there were some things that were like, if I didn't get medical attention, I probably would have had a really hard time health wise. We'll just say that. And so it's really easy to fall into like, well, I have to take, I'm taking these antibiotics and I'm taking these pills. I need to go to the hospital out of a fear-based place. And you know what I'm going to say, like, even though I'm teaching this stuff, I definitely got into a fear-based mindset about my circumstances a couple of times. But the difference is that I recognized that that was happening and I gave myself time to feel that fear. and be with that fear without pushing it away, without shoving it down, because that's also what most people are doing. They're afraid of these things that are popping up in their reality that they've created from an energetic signature, which is your totality of your energies, what really creates your reality. And a lot of that is subconscious, which is it's beneath your awareness. I can't say that enough. There's a lot of people that are very self-aware, think they know everything that's going on beneath them, but I have to tell you that that's most likely a protective mechanism that makes you feel safe, because if it's like, if I don't know everything that's going on with me, that creates destabilization, fear, anxiety, not feeling safe. Um, Anyways, that's a little tangent. These things are happening at a level that are, it's automatic. You're not thinking about it. And unless you have this emotional intelligence where you can be with these really intense feelings, you're not going to be able to know what's going on. And so that's where I see a gap for a lot of people is, again, they're doing mindset work, but the emotional piece is, it's just hasn't been tended to. That skill hasn't been cultivated. And it's a really difficult skill to cultivate because it requires you to be with the very things that you've probably spent most of your life trying to avoid and get away from. Get it, you're going to have to be with your anger, you're going to have to be with your grief, and you're going to have to be with your fear. And so when you can be with those things without fearing the sensations and the emotions themselves, that's when they can actually start to move and cycle out. But like I was saying, most people are getting hooked back in to creating more of the same. They're looping in these energies because they're not viewing it as an opportunity to resolve something from the past. Now, like, I'm just using my example. Like, I've never had pneumonia, but I can tell you when I allowed myself to be with my emotions when I was in that, like in the depths of that illness, I could definitely see the ties to so many other experiences in my life. And we just, most of the time, we never give ourselves the time or day to just be present with what's showing up in our life. We immediately jump to creating stories and taking action, especially when it's involving something we don't want, to get away from it, to shut it down. And those are coping mechanisms. Um, so there's lots of opportunity. So March is going to be a kind of like the final culmination, if you will, of the energies of 2024. Whatever themes you've been working through, March is going to be the last little bit, and then starting and like tipping into a new cycle. So like really being, this is where your self-awareness does come in handy, really being aware of like, what are you planting as a seed for 2025? This is a really good time to take like a couple of weeks to reflect on that. Because again, like after the spring equinox, that's when the new energies really start to usher in. And yeah, you get to plant your intention for 2025. But what is the dominant emotion beneath that? And that takes a whole new level of self-awareness that a lot of people just haven't cultivated. But the good news is you can start right now by just being with your emotions, not analyzing even where they come from, not trying to fix them, not making up stories of like, I must have done something wrong. Why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way, like staying out of all that. I mean, if that is there, that's probably part of the pattern that you are working through, whether you know it or not. And that's part of the emotion, right? So that's probably a defense mechanism against what's underneath it. So ironically, you don't shut those thoughts down, actually. You allow them to be there, but you bring in a higher perspective of like, this is part of the pattern. this is part of what I'm completing or resolving or letting go of, even if I'm not consciously aware of what's underneath that, what kind of experiences or emotions that are stuck within me that led to this point. You don't actually need to know any of that. If you can just be radically present, connected to your body, and not in fear, like being in fear of what is showing up, like feeling all of it. That is how you honor your wholeness in this moment. So most people are like, they want to be whole. I just want to be whole and complete. And they there's a lot of talk online of like, I am whole and complete right now. And a lot of people probably say that as like an affirmation, and that's great. But again, does it match the emotion? Or does somewhere inside of you feel numb or disconnected or in conflict with that? So being able to be curious about those things when they show up inside you, which is really hard for the super self-aware person to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm numb, which means you've shut down your emotions. When it comes to this thing, I don't feel anything. Um, it like you will know if you are in alignment in your subconscious with the things that you're saying. And that's not to say that you shouldn't stop. It's not about like, oh, well, I should stop saying my mantras and my affirmations and thinking positively. No, 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 no. You keep doing that. But what shows up in your body in response to those affirmations and those sayings of like, I'm making this decision out of support for my body. And if there's a part of you that starts yelling, that's like, but but what about this and what about this and what about this and what if we die, like, you know, and it's going on and on and on. That is the part of you that you need to be with and be present with and love, for that to be fully aligned, for that statement and that emotion to be aligned together, which is what creates, it's the thought and the emotion together that create, um and for those to be aligned, it's about working with that part of yourself that is not okay with that. And it can be really humbling and hard to admit for the person that has done work, um, and is on this path, but is like, wow, I don't emotionally feel like I am, like that feels like a true statement to me, or I don't feel any. It's mostly, I think a lot of people start out in the place where it's like, well, I don't really feel anything when I say that, so that must mean I'm okay. No, then that's like the sign of like total disconnect from emotions. And that's super normal. I mean, emotions are not encouraged. I mean, they're starting to be, but my sense is that most of you growing up, that there were certain emotions that were allowed and other emotions that weren't allowed, and some of you just went into a freeze and shut down your emotions altogether because it was just like, that is how I receive love. That is how I get praise. That is how I feel safety, is if my emotions are doing nothing. And this is a message I've been saying for a long time, but it's like the emotional side is what we have to address, because a lot of people, I mean, there are some people that struggle with their thought patterns and thinking positive thoughts, or thinking about, or focusing their thoughts on the outcome that they want. But the emotions behind that need to be in alignment with it. And we neglect that part, um, because it's hard. And then, yeah, we have to go and sit with the things that are hard. So that's what 2025 has been about so far. It's been actually a huge opportunity to be with your truth, your emotional truth, and to start being comfortable and to start letting go of fear of your emotions and to start creating better things, because you have a better relationship with all of your emotions, and that there is no more fear being subconsciously planted in your seeds of life, because you have a good relationship to your emotions and your thoughts. So I think I'm going to leave the message there for today. Of course, these are skills that I teach in my one-on-one containers. And I also have a free quiz that is your subconscious blind spot, which it actually goes into based on how you answer a few questions. What kinds of subconscious fears are you harboring and may be contributing to your life? So that's free. You can take that now and get a little insight as to what's going on in your subconscious. And I'm just wishing you a beautiful March. Lean in. Know that what's coming up for you is most likely representative of old emotions and things that you are completing and moving forward from. But in order to move forward, you can't be moving away from something that you haven't dealt with yet. Um, so sometimes it feels like we're moving backwards by giving attention to things that don't feel good. But by being with that, loving that space, loving the parts of you that aren't on board with moving forward is the way forward. It's the fastest way forward. And it is the way that you will be aligned moving forward, which is where you create magic. Have a beautiful March. I'll see you soon. Bye.